Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video we're going to be discussing about how to set up JWT in a Node.js application. And when we say JWT, basically it's just a way of authenticating your Node.js application. That's your backend or your APIs. Now there are several ways which you can be able to authenticate your APIs and make them secured, whereby you know whoever is making a request to services on your backend or trying to get data like retrieve data or mutate data to your backend or server, has to supply a form of validation before he or she is granted access. And JWT, which is the short form for JSON Web Token, is one out of many ways which you can be able to implement something of that nature. Now, today's video is going to be centered on how do you implement authentication, or how do you make use of JWT in a Node.js application. And it's quite pretty straightforward. JWT is a package of its own which can be installed using the npm command. And having installed it, we can be able to go ahead and make use of the JWT package by signing the user, getting a token, and doing all sort of stuff that we want to do. And that's basically what we're going to be doing today. So this is just a rundown of what this video is going to carry or what it's going to cover. And I think it's high time we go straight into the practical aspect of the video.
Okay, so now this is just a simple application that I've been able to bootstrap. And if you look at the application, you see it's just a very simple Node.js application that is really not doing anything at the moment. But on a normal day, you definitely would have a Node.js application doing something, maybe writing some API for some fintech application or some kind of e-commerce or whatever it is. But the main goal, like I said, of this particular tutorial is to show you how, to apply JWT in your Node.js application. And most cases where you would always apply JWT are cases of where the user logs into his or her account, or the user signs into his or her account, and you try to authenticate that user to make further requests after successful signing. And like I said, the JWT, which is also the JSON Web Token, it's basically an npm package that can be installed using npm. So all we have to do is just to npm install JSON Web Token. Now you might be surprised, like, why are we not writing JWT? Like I said, that's just an abbreviation. The real name is JSON Web Token. Now, when we install this token, or when we install this package, rather, this package gets installed into our application, and we can now be able to require the package. So now we can require JSON Web Token. And basically we can now be able to use this package in whatever thing we're doing. Now let's assume we have a post route that says login. Now inside of the login, we definitely want to do some stuff. So I'm going to be doing some dummy stuffs here, just trying to mimic something. Now the first thing we want to do is get the data from the front end, and that's basically the email and the password. Now that will be retrieved from the request.body. Now the next thing would basically be, we would want to test, for example, want to say is user exists. Let's just say user exists. Then we can say await. Let me use an async function here. So we can say await db.user.find1, just to know if the user exists. And after that has been done, if we have a user that exists, we definitely want to do if there is no user, then it means you don't have an account with the platform. So we can just tell you, hey, this was a bad request, we can just say account not found. And if you have an account, we go ahead to validate you and assign a JWT token to user. So with validate user, so we basically what we're going to be doing here is just JWT.sign. Now this is the main thing I want to show you guys today. Now the JWT.sign method. Now let's assume we have a data from the database called user data, and in this data we have an ID of 2, we have a name of John Doe, we have an email of, let's say, john@aol.com. Now we have those things in the user data, and we want to sign the user data inside of here. So which means we would also have to supply the JWT token as the secret. Now we can decide to create our secret inside of here. Now the secret is what you use to, I wouldn't say decrypt because we're not doing any encryption process, but it's what you use to detokenize, if there's a word like that. You know, when you sign in a user, you're signing in a user with a secret key in a JWT, and you also put in a particular expiry time which you want that token to be validated for. Now, when you want to validate that user later on and you want to check if that user was validated by JWT, you also would have to supply that same JWT token. So in this case, I'm just going to name our secret key. Let's just say JWT app, and in between, I'm just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to make it look a bit crazy. And here we can now go ahead and call the process.env.jwt token. And the next thing we want to do is we want to set an expiry time. So I want this token to expire every 1 hour. So this token is going to be valid for 1 hour, and after 1 hour the token get expired. So if that has been done, then I'm just going to sign in the user. Like now the user has a token, and inside of here we can just do console.log token. So for now, let's just console.log token. So I'm going to test this and let's see what it looks like. So we'll run this application, and because of we don't have a database configuration and all of that, this would definitely break. So I'm just going to comment this out just to assume that that has been done, and we'll also assume that this is the user that was retrieved from the database, right? Now what we need to do is just go into our Postman, and inside of the Postman we'll create a new request, and this would be http localhost 8200/login. Now when we send this request and check, now you can see we get a token. Now you might ask yourself, the token doesn't look meaningful. Definitely yes, that's the reason why it's a token. Now what do you use a token to do? There are several things you can do. You can decide to send the token back to the user on the front end, whereby the user gets the token, do whatever he or she wants to do with the token, like maybe put it in local storage, in the session storage, or whatever it is they want to do with it, and send it back for every request that will be made after the login request. Right? Now, that's one. Second thing you can do is you can decide to store the token in a cookie. So you can decide to store the token in your browser cookie for that particular domain you have on your front end. So whatever way works for you, whatever way you feel resonates more with your application, that's what you should follow. But that's not the ideal reason for this video. So we're gonna have a different video that tells you when to use cookie, when to use token, or all those kind of stuffs. But in this video, we're basically showing you an example of how to generate a token, a JWT token for a user, and use that token for further requests. Now you can see you have this token, and all you need to do is just return this token to the user on the front end. And for now, we're just going to return it using the response.status 200, and we will just say login successful and token. Right? So now if we try this again, we should get something in our Postman console or our Postman endpoints, and now you see we get login successful and we get a token. So for any client side or for any front end that is making a request to your server, to your login route, would get this as a response and can now do whatever he or she wants to do with that particular stuff. Now you might be asking yourself, okay, how do we now, check, how do we now know how the user is validated, stuff like that? That's more like we creating the middleware for the application to use that same token and check if the user is a verified user, right? Now we can do that by just going into the folder. We create a folder called middlewares, and inside of middleware, I'm just going to create a new file called auth.js. Now inside of the auth.js, I'm going to require JWT. I'm also going to require the .env package. And finally, we can now create the function, that allows us to be able to check. Now we have a .env.config. Now inside of here, we can now create a function called check user validity. And this function is basically just going to be like an express function, request, response, next. Now the first thing we want to do here is we want to check for the bearer header, if the user has a bearer header, and that would be request.headers, and in the header we want to check for the authorization, right? Now the next thing we want to do here is, if we have an authorization of the type of undefined, so which means if our authorization is undefined, there is a mistake here. Yes, this is what we're supposed to have. So if the type of bearer, if it's not undefined, we do whatever we want to do. But if it is undefined, then we just want to tell the user something that says unauthorized, just a message that says unauthorized. So we can just say unauthorized. Now, if we have the user data, that's the bearer header, present, then the next thing we want to do is pass it as the request.token. And the next thing we do is put a try catch, and if there's an error, we also tell the user the token is invalid. We can just call this invalid token, and inside of here we can now decoded data, and we can now do JWT.verify. We can use the verify method of JWT to verify that token, which was this token that we have highlighted here. And the second thing we have to pass is the secret key, which I mentioned earlier. So we have to pass that same secret key again. Right? Now, if we have this, then we can assign the token, the decoded value, to request.user. Now, how do we use this to check? All we have to do is export this function, and in the index.js, we're just going to require check validity middleware's auth.js. So this has to be wrapped. Yes. So now we're going to create a new route that says app.get profile, and we now pass check user validity there before we go ahead to create a request response. So now you might be wondering, let's see what this looks like. So if we get this thing validated, then inside of here we just want to return 200.json and return request.user. So now we go ahead, test this. This is a token. Now for the next request we want to make, which is a get request, we entered the URL, and this is basically profile and go into the headers and add the authorization and supply the token there. Now if we send this, let's see what we're getting here. app.get/profile. Okay, this is taking time. Let's see why it's taking time. Here we have app.get/profile. Check user validity. Oh, okay. There was something missing here. The next. So we're going to try this again. Right. So now you can see we get the data. But let's, for example, remove the token and try to send it. Now you see it tells us unauthorized. Now, for any reason, let's change the token and remove a character and put something different. We get invalid token. So this way, you've been able to authenticate this request to only be available to users who are logged in, and that's the way the JWT works. So like I said, the main aim of this video is to show you how you can be able to implement JWT in your Node.js application. It's far way more than that. This is just the basics. This is something that can keep you going, and all you need to do is just look into this and see how you can be able to bring it into your own application, login system, and every other routes that you have. Now that's basically that. If you have any question, drop it in the comment section, and I'm definitely going to answer every question I get in the comment section. If you like this video, share, subscribe, give a like, and also share. That is the most important thing. Share to everyone around you who, is into software engineering, software development, website development, whatever it is. Share this video to them. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.